He is a retired chemistry professor who has been working in clay for a number of years. His current area of interest is in the chemistry of high temperature crystalline glazes. Hi, Dave.
Hello, good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
I think I've met you because you're over at E Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I was visiting everyone's websites and I thought, oh yeah, I know this guy. So we've probably met in passing, but hello, good morning. So do you want to tell us about a typical or not so typical day in your studio, Dave?
Yeah, nothing's typical these days, it seems. It's kind of a strange time since back in March. And so I'm typically, my current body of work, my interest is set is in these high temperature glazes. And I'm in the process now of doing a lot of testing, trying to look at ways that I can modify these glazes. So I'm typically coming in and I'm mixing up batches of test glazes. And then I apply these to tiles. And then when there's not a demand for energy for air conditioning, I'll run my kiln and take a look at the results, and then I'll make modifications and make up more glazes and do more testing. And I've probably done 200 or 300 test tiles since the beginning of the year. And
wow, that's a lot for right now. Yeah. Do you do, how many test tiles? Is that like how many you do every year? Like hundreds of test tiles like that?
No, usually it's not as much. And so I've been taking advantage of the fact that there's, no shows, no, real gallery openings to look at my glazes and work on understanding and improving those. And so normally in the past, I would be throwing pots, putting on glazes, firing them, and then, putting them out for display. But since there's not really any place to display, I'm focusing on these glazes.
That makes sense. Sometimes I think when I don't have a lot of things coming up, it's a good time to pick up something to do that is very tedious or that will take a long time, or I can work on the same thing over and over and over again, just so I'm not stockpiling a bunch of work. Sometimes I don't have a lot of space. Oh, there you are. I'm not hearing you.
Okay, should work now?
Yes, now we hear you, yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to Chris earlier, and like Chris, I'm a fire person. And then she mentioned also getting interested in some technical aspects. And right now, I'm probably more in the mode of a technician than an artist. And what I'm really trying to do is understand how my glazes work so that I can modify them to make them work as I want them or work better.
Yeah.
And as most ceramicists know, you glaze a piece, fire it in the kiln, and you don't always know what you're going to get.
Yeah, this seems to be a theme with the ceramics people. Yeah.
And so I've actually been taking a couple of online classes. That's one of the things that you can do during the pandemic, and utilizing what I've learned from those classes to try to understand my glazes, how to modify them to make them do what I would like them to do, as opposed to what they want to do.
Okay. Hey, this is just for the people that might be listening that aren't ceramics people. And I'm certainly not a ceramics person. I'm just ceramics adjacent. When you say high temperature, can you tell us a little bit about how high temperature is? Because high temperature for some people means it's 105 outside. So tell us what that means for you.
Oh, about 2,350 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So for ceramicists, that would be cone 10. And it takes this high of a temperature for the glazes that I use to function. I do these, as I say, high temperature crystalline glazes where I actually grow crystals in the glaze during the firing process. And it has to be at a high temperature so that the chemicals can come together to form the crystals.
So
And
your background as a chemistry professor really kind of comes through with your interest in doing all these tests. I can see you've got a very scientific approach to all of this.
yes, it is helpful at times, but it's also very frustrating at times because there's so many variables that it's hard to control all the variables. And so you get unexpected results. And you go, well, if it were a perfect world, it should be this. And,
Imperfect world.
yeah.
So I think you've answered some of these questions that we have on your list here. Is there anything else you want to talk to us about how your practice may have changed due to COVID-19? I mean, you talked about how because you don't have shows coming up, you're doing more tests. Anything else you want to add to that before I move on to the next question?
No, I think that's probably covered it.
Yeah, okay. So what else keeps you motivated to create your work? How do you keep going?
It's a little harder these days. I used to attend and teach workshops. And so I would always get ideas from going to workshops and then trying to utilize what I'd learned at the workshops. And then teaching workshops, somebody will ask a question and it will be, oh, I'd never thought of that before. Well, that's interesting. Where could I go with that? And so that's not happening as much these days. So that's why I started taking some of the online classes. And so between online classes and looking at websites, you can do virtual museum tours. So I still keep getting ideas. It's just not in the usual places, I guess, these days.
Ooh, do you have a favorite virtual museum tour to offer to our listeners? I think he might be frozen. We're just going to give it a beat. Oh, he'll be back. I'm sure of it. There you are. I can't hear you again.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. You did great.
Yeah, we're trying to get an internet connection here and it's just taking a while.
I feel you. I know what that feels like. So
Yeah.
do you have a favorite virtual museum visit to recommend to people? Is there a favorite museum that you found has a particularly good virtual program?
No, they're all different. And, of course, if you're in, a particular field, you want to see things in that particular field. Let's see. And in Sacramento, we have a wonderful resource in the Crocker. There's several, wonderful ceramics collections at the Crocker. And they've actually, they just had a virtual display, one of their ceramics exhibits, I think recently, just very nice.
Yeah, I miss museums so much. That is way high on my list of things I'm missing these days. All right, so we've talked about the glaze. We've talked about the process a little bit. What else influences or inspires your work?
Nature. Like to do like rocks. Go back to what Chris had said before. It's just getting out. I do some of my work has lidded pieces, and I like to find objects in nature to use as handles. So, go for a hike and always be looking down at the ground, looking for an interesting piece of wood, or maybe there's something at the beach that I'll find. And, that's probably primary inspiration. And you don't always see that reflected directly in the pieces. It's sometimes more of a thought process. It's just got something that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I get that. I always say nature's the best artist. I always find things that I think I could not outdo this. This is too, there's no way I could do better than that. So it's not worth giving up, but it's always worth drawing inspiration from.
Yeah.
Where did you were teaching chemistry for a long time. Where were you teaching?
Mostly at Cosumnes River College.
Okay.
So.
Somebody's asking you a question. They say, how about the horsehairs, Dave?
That was, yeah, I work at 2 temperature extremes. So the high temperature crystalline glaze, that was about 2,350. And then I also work at raku temperatures about 1,400 degrees. And one of the things that I do there is in the raku is I do horsehair pots where you burn hair onto the pots. And a number of years ago, I used to have a ponytail, cut it off, and I've used it on the pots as decoration. And now with COVID, it looks like I'm growing the ponytail again.
Yeah. Or you could do a beard pot, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that would work. Well, this has been fun to meet you. Trying to think, we have a little bit of time left. Seeing if I have. Do you want to tell us how to find out more about your work? Plug a website or a space?
Well, if you go to the catalog in Verge, it has a link to website. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's Dave Hodapp Ceramics. And I just thought, let's see if I can find when I talk about these crystals. So this is what I'm talking about in the glazes. So these are crystals of zinc silicate, and they come together during the firing process. And so it's an energy intensive process. So that's why I'm trying to give smut a break by not running my kiln too often.
Yeah, it'll be your season soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we have time for you to maybe show one more piece up close, and then I'll have to move on to the next artist.
Okay. Well, here's a little different set of crystals. So the different colors come from different minerals that you add. So copper is usually a green, cobalt always is a blue in the crystals. And so you get something a little different.
Yeah. What would you burn up in the kiln to make a bright pink?
You'd have to go to a stain. Okay. You can't, hold on. We can make a grab here. So you use stains to get something like reds or pinks.
Yeah. I was just trying to throw you a curveball for fun.
Yeah, I was ready.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave. I think I'm supposed to
you.
move on to our next person, but I'm really glad I got to visit with you today, and I hope you have a successful tour.